I'm Joe Wesley of the Joe Wesley and Lizzy Gabor team. We're starting always a little bit early for those who are seeing us for the first time. For those who are coming back on visit, thank you very much. We do appreciate that. For those who are seeing us for the first time, we start a little bit early to try to give you some background work conceptually of what we're doing. I'd like to remind you, first off, the mechanics of this. You can look at us through LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, either the live version, 5 o'clock in the morning. I wish not. 8 o'clock in the morning, 5 days a week. And sorry for that. Looking at my phone. Basically, they see we're not organized on this one at all. Concept, but basically, what we do is we discuss my confusion over this mindfulness thing. Good morning, Lizzy. How are you doing?
Good morning, Joe. Happy anniversary.
That's right. Well, same to you. That's our topic. I won't go. I'll go through the commercial stuff and I'll just stop that. This is a special moment for us, and the theme today is not mindfulness. What is the theme? Overthinking. I'm underthinking at the moment. Fair enough. And the concept being is that I believe overthinking is the concept of having too many choices, perhaps, or not. So that's what I'm saying. Is overthinking like having too many choices. And we got into this recognition of our anniversary. We began our program this time last year. And Lizzy said 3 sessions back that, hey, our anniversary is coming like in 1 or 2 clicks. And I said, no, it's further down the road. Well, the discussion was that she made references our 50th year, our 100th year, our 50th week, and I get the mechanics of it, but I was thinking more like a marriage anniversary. It's a calendar thing of 52 weeks. So we had this back and forth. And we negotiated, which is like kind of our every program syndrome here, different wavelengths, trying to reach a common ground. So we agreed to 52 weeks as an anniversary rather than a 50-week anniversary. But with all of that discussion, we spent at least 2 or 3 sessions on this. With all that discussion, then we realized our anniversary date was last Thursday on Thanksgiving. So it didn't matter with all the
I mean,
discussion.
that's the thing. Like, it's like such a good example of life where we're so rigid. Like, we each were rigid in our thinking first of how we saw it, but
Well,
then we.
excuse me, not rigid, focused. That's my perspective. You might have been rigid. I was
I
focused.
think you had the rule. It was the rule in your mind. A year is 52 weeks, and in my mind, 50 shows is a big deal. So it's just interesting because I think we do that with so many things, and that's where that learning to be flexible comes in, and how much when we became flexible and we just went with it, we were able to go forward, and rather than it stopping us. That's what
Mm.
happens a lot when we get rigid in our thinking and what we think something should be, and then we end up doing nothing.
Exactly. And to me, it's even a greater hilarity because even though we were laser focused on the agreement that last Thursday, that's going to be our 52nd week phenomena, it didn't matter. And most of the times in life, I rephrase that. I think back in my life, more than 3 years past, if not sooner. And the things that seem to be critically essential of my life or not, I can't remember them most of the time more than not. There may be exceptions, but this is maybe the closest we've had an agreement on anything we've done here so far, folks. And oh, before I forget, please remember to subscribe to us. Uh, I'm changing my dialogue a little bit, Lizzy. That want people to remember that we're doing now a little bit of recognition growth factor here. In terms of overthinking, in terms of other things, we usually would talk one topic per session, but we've had requests to do micro series of discussions. So the micro series for the month of December is overthinking, and we thought it was Lizzy, really her idea, that this is the time people, women in particular, I guess more than men, worry about who to invite over for holiday, what presents to get, what food to cook, where do the guests sit, and it's very easy as we justify our planning to maybe get in a tizzy, get harried because there's this ultimately this overthinking thing. So we'll be providing different versions of overthinking. So today began our discussion with anniversary, the difference of opinion, meeting of the minds, and still focus. It's a slippery slope, and realize with to me in a hilarious manner. It didn't matter that much. We're still functioning. We haven't shot each other to death, and we're better for it. And so I've Lizzy is the one that kind of talks the concept of mindfulness. And so my confusion here, for those who are seeing this for the first time, I think it's easier said than done to say, well, you just have to focus and be clear in the moment, and therefore you've reached mindfulness. And my thing is, no, it can't be just turning a light switch on. There's got to be a struggle to get there. So,
I heard this, Joe, recently, and then I thought of you because I know you say often about, you act like it's just a switch you turn on. And I heard recently, and I love that, to think of it more as, and because what it really is a dial, a dial where, like, when you get all worked up about something, whatever it is, like for as far as the holidays, and I'll share with the audience my little story about the holidays. But I mean, I've announced before that I'm a recovering overthinker and also a recovering perfectionist. And
okay.
during the holidays, I think that perfectionism mentality can get triggered, and it did for me. And so Thanksgiving, I was trying, I had people here. I was cooking all day. I had about half an hour to get dressed before people came. I showered. I went to put on the sweater that I planned to wear. That was like the perfect color, and just I was so excited to wear it. And I put it on, and I was like, I am going to die of heat if I wear this sweater for this holiday. I will just melt. And so I started taking that sweater off, putting on another one. Nope, I don't like that one. So I became indecisive. I got myself hotter than even I was when I first went up there. And 10 sweaters, on the floor later that I had to clean up, at the end of the night after cleaning up Thanksgiving. I just said, I actually turned on some music, and that's one of my techniques. You have to, like, lots of different techniques that you can do to turn down the dial, and I put on something. It was absolutely fine. I went about the day, but I wasted that half hour in that loop of, like, just, not complete panic, but just overwhelm and unnecessarily. And I think that can happen a lot during the holidays. That's why I think this topic being a warning a little bit, to be careful about, how reactive we are, and we can turn the dial down. Switching it off, we can't. We have got to hone our thoughts. We're going to have them. We don't want to not have thoughts. We need to think. Right.
Well, I'm thinking of a rheostat format. You said dial, the same thing, but I'm the more the left brain phenomena. So I get you totally on that concept. It's very seductive. Overthinking, as I see it, a very slippery slope in terms of going that path. And I won't say weak in our fairness, I can't speak for Lizzy. It's spontaneous. Before I know what's happening, I'm caught up in it. And is it from having too many? We feel we always have another choice, and we have to. You mentioned the sweaters, and I have to exercise that choice. Now I have no. Rephrase that. Let me put in perspective. My wife goes through, and I'm not knocking my wife, but she's got seasonal clothing. I've got 2 shirts, 1 pair of pants, 2 shoes. I have no overthinking issue on what to wear that day.
No, there's not. There's definitely something to be said for that simplicity, for sure. And I know that for that day, just the other day on Thanksgiving, yes, I had way too many choices. And after spending a month away, where I only brought, like you said, a few sweaters, a couple shirts, that's what I had to wear, and it wasn't so daunting. It was just like, okay, well, I didn't wear this one this week, so I'll wear it next week because I have 4 weeks here, and so simplifying and decluttering are so good for the soundtracks we play in our mind, but also our space, our homes, and where we want to
I
rest
hear
and
that.
restore.
I hear that, but I think those for many people are cuss words. Simplifying and decluttering. No, I can't do that. So I know people who enjoy the clutter concept, I'm sure it's in our heads. It's the same way. It becomes a part of who we are. When I was a 6 year old kid, everything was easy because I only had one thought at any given moment in my head. There was nothing to overthink.
Mhm.
As an adult, there's always 4 or 5 things minimally swirling going on. And
Mhm.
so I guess my question to Lizzy is one to be aware, of course. This mindfulness thing, I get maybe the concept is having a sense of now, maybe, and that without distraction. Am I correct in that
Without
concept?
the mindfulness being in the present moment without judgment,
Okay.
and so and also making decisions, just without and going with them, kind of. I think, without second guessing and all the thing, and we will do that. I mean, we all do that to ourselves, but
Mm-hmm.
the overthinking part is where it stops us and it leads us to not doing anything. I mean, I've had that with restaurants in my family, the four of us sitting around. I want to go here. I want to go. And it's an hour later, and I'm like, "Can we just go have dinner?"
Mm-hmm.
So it affects everything. This overthinking thing
No.
that
I
we're all. It's something that we all struggle with to one degree or another. And again, like you said, some people are do better in more chaos in their homes, than others. That's why some of my friends have 6 kids and I have 2.
now. That's funny.
Because I wasn't meant for that much
Too much
chaos.
clutter. Too much clutter for you. I get that.
It's much better.
I guess
uh,
what I think of a train barreling down a track, and they have these little safety things like red lights and automatic brakes on the train track to slow the train down. But I think the issue of overthinking is those fail safes don't work. Either they're not in play because we haven't developed them yet in our psyche, or let me stop at that point. That's the focus. There are things that one can do because it is seductive. It is a slippery slope. We get caught up in the moment. You were able to trigger something to say, let me turn on the music. Because
mhm.
you're seasoned, though, you're experienced, you're professional, you're an expert in your field. But for those of us who are on the other side of the track, that we don't have all these intrinsic learned skills in my head or my psyche, is there one little thing one might do who've yet to see to see the more
I mean,
advanced
I think
courses?
there's like a little thing that I do sometimes. I've kind of made it a little bit shorter now to make it easier, but it just when your mind starts going somewhere, first of all, we got to start thinking about what our thinking. But you can ask yourself when you're having a thought that maybe is usually negative and it's not getting you where you want to be. Is it true? Ask yourself these 3 questions. Is it true? Is it
Mm,
true that if I wore that first sweater, I would actually melt and die,
mm,
of heat? No, that's not true. The second question is it helpful?
mm,
Is this thought helpful? And if not, let's turn the dial a little bit or turn down the thermostat, like you said. I love that
mm,
too. And then thirdly, is it kind? Is it
mm,
kind? Is this thing that I'm, is it kind to myself? Or even if I'm thinking about an other, is it a kind thought?
mm,
And, if you just stop and ask yourself those 3 questions, usually we see how unhelpful, unkind, and untrue, a lot of these thoughts are. And um, we can, we can start to hopefully replace them with you know, better thinking thoughts,
I,
vibing
I
thoughts.
I hear that. A thought came to my mind. Would follow that term. We talk about rheostat or thermostat. One can debate and say in your home, is it warm? Is it too warm here for me? Is it me? Is it the world around me? Might agonize. Is it the clothing I have on? Sometimes in the kitchen, I will say that it feels warm in here. Well, to me, it's as an awareness first off that I
Mhm.
can't affect it or make it happen until I have an awareness it's an issue.
Yep.
So what I'll do sometimes is I'll go check the thermostat. Is it at the set temperature? Maybe somebody bumped against it.
Mm-hmm.
Unlikely. But sometimes it's just saying, well, we got the oven turned on. We've been here baking. It's 78 degrees outside, even though we have the AC running. So, yes, it is warm, but we don't have to worry about is something going on that shouldn't be going on. So, I guess
Mm-hmm.
it's that awareness thing to have a little part of you always like a back burner, perhaps, or a back flame that says that when something is however seductive it may be sneaking up on you and it seems to be out of whack, say, oh, let me stop and give it consideration. So what you talk about, Lizzie, if
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing it correctly, you're giving it the consideration. I'm trying to think of the trigger to get me to that point of consideration. You have the
Well,
experience,
I
something
mean, like
triggered.
you said that the with the thermos with the heat in the room, or then what can you choose to do? You can choose to either do nothing, first of all, and just get hot. You can go over there and voluntarily change it so that it cools down the room, and so it can be a positive action, or we can just a negative action would be like, I'm just going to sit here and suffer in the heat, and so we can choose again, like with safe. I think about the pandemic and coming up with the holidays. People, we saw this all over the place. People were either panicking or they were pivoting,
Mm,
and
mhm,
people that were more flexible and realized that we don't have control over everything. Life is not certain. Everything is always changing. That's life. We're the ones who did better than because they pivoted, and the ones who were panicked suffered,
mhm.
are still suffering. So I just wanted to touch on that because um, I think it aligns with, again, it's the overthinking about all the catastrophizing people were doing around this crazy time we're living in. Um,
Fair enough. I appreciate that. Once again, we've gone past our curfew time here. We enjoy ourselves. I do admit to that, even though we debated back and forth by texting on LinkedIn about agreeing. And Lizzie really is a giving person, and she's really sincere. And I got to cut this short because we're over our time frame. But we have fun. We do that, and sometimes we get beyond our style. We really would appreciate your comments. Share us, ask your questions. There'll be more to come in this micro series of December. Are we overthinking? And if the answer is yes, do we want to allow it to react us in a manner that's not healthy? Or as Lizzie would say, do we want to get ahead of it and, as she says, pivot um, and make it work for us as opposed
yeah.
to have it work against us? Thank you.
Absolutely. I think, Joe, our hope is that our stories are going to help people, give insights that will help them on their journeys, so that's what I kind of our intention. And I would love the audience to share with us
Mhm.
some of the things, the techniques that they might do to help themselves get out of that overthinking spiral. I'm always looking for new ones.
Fair enough. Well, even we're
I'll
two
start.
minutes over. We're 2 minutes over our curfew, but it's our
Okay.
anniversary, so we're entitled.
Yes.
Thank
Happy
you very much, folks.
anniversary. We
Yeah,
look
happy
forward to
anniversary.
here.
We'll see you
All
again very
right.
soon.
Take good care, everyone.
So
Happy
long.
holidays.